Odyssey NFL insider Ross Tucker. Insider Calls brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Look at that. I went a little Jack Nicholson there. Ross, welcome to the show.
I mean, even when they win, you guys make me nervous as I'm coming on about what you're going to ask me and what trouble you're going to try to get me into.
That's fair. You can just rebuke everything we said, and I think people would be like, yeah, that's fair.
By the way, appreciate the flexibility. I am on my way to Lincoln, Nebraska for Iowa-Nebraska Friday on Black Friday, and I think every flight in the world is delayed right now, so I will be in the air for my normal 4 o'clock, but that works out for you guys. You can just replay this interview in like an hour and a half. I would hate to think that people that rearrange their entire Wednesdays for 4 to 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, the level of disappointment and shock and horror. I mean, people revolve their whole holiday schedules around this.
That's very true. Are we on Raiola watch, potentially going to the portal there for Nebraska, Iowa? That feels like the big storyline.
Very interesting. I just saw that on the first flight out here. Certainly, that's going to be something that we ask him about. I will say that the true freshman quarterback, T.J. Lateef, is pretty darn good. But Raiola was having a good year before he got hurt. So the fact that the weird part about it is what I read said that the Nebraska officials are bracing for that. I don't really know what that means. I mean, his younger brother, who's still in high school, was committed to Nebraska, and he just decommitted. So maybe that's why they're bracing for it. Like, okay, if the younger brother's not coming here anymore, what does that mean for the older one? I don't know if they're bracing for it, I guess they think that there's some chance of it. I mean, the crazy thing is the Lateef kid's playing pretty well, and I think right after the UCLA game, his first start, Rule was the first one to say, you don't think Lateef's going to get offered a couple $1 million by somebody? I mean, this is like the new normal for college football and quarterbacks.
All right, Ross, grade it out. What'd you make of Shedor's first career NFL start?
Yeah, I thought it was really positive, really positive. Probably better than I thought it would be, going into it. I thought he'd be better than he was in the second half against the Ravens just because kind of got thrown in there and, hadn't gotten any of the reps with the ones. The game plan wasn't really designed for him. So I thought he'd be better. What I didn't think, Jonathan, I didn't think he would improve that quickly in terms of not bailing out of the back of the pocket. I mean, he did that all the time at Colorado, and it felt like in 1 week the Browns fixed that. Now, maybe that was just a 1 week thing. I will say, I don't know if I said this during the broadcast or not, maybe once, I'm a little surprised the Raiders didn't bring more pressure, didn't heat them up more. It felt like the Raiders put a lot of coverage. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess it worked the one time when they kind of fooled him with the edge rusher dropping and they got the one interception. But I was just impressed by the combination of how quickly he got the ball out at times, the fact that he was stepping up in the pocket. We had spoken with Joel Bitonio the day before, and he had said that, that they had really hammered that home and that had really been addressed and something that they really focused on with Shador was like, hey, man, you gotta step up. If you step up, we will protect you. We will be there for you. And probably the best I've seen the offensive line play this year, at least in protection from that standpoint. And then even the plays, like I loved the play to Jerry Jeudy. I thought he was just going to throw it in the flat to Njoku. He just stayed poised. He stayed composed. He kept letting the play out. All of a sudden, Judy's wide open. He puts it on him. Not really exactly sure what Jeudy was doing after that, but I thought that, I thought the throw to Bond is just an incredible throw. He got smashed as he threw that. So you combine the throw to Bond and the throw to Jeudy. Those were two plays that, to your guys' point earlier, that I didn't really see Dylan Gabriel making those type of plays when he was out there.
So with that, Ross, obviously it seems like, because the Browns haven't committed to him for the rest of the season, it seems like he's week to week as the Browns starter. But let's say he gets the next 6 games to prove himself. What does he need to do in the final 6 games of the season to at least make it a conversation about whether they go into the offseason with him as the starter and maybe try to build around him for 1 year as opposed to automatically drafting the best quarterback available next April?
Well, there's 3 plausible scenarios. One is he plays so well that he's the guy. 2 is he plays well enough that he might be the guy, but they're going to have him compete with somebody else because they're not sure. And then the last scenario would be that he does not show enough, and they do not think he has any chance to be the guy, and they go out and get somebody else. In terms of what he needs to do, this is like one of the things I love about football. I mean, the more games he wins, the less chance the Browns would have to draft his replacement. I mean, he needs to just keep he needs to keep winning. The more he wins, the harder it would be for the Browns to be able to get up there and get one of the top 2 or 3 guys. And if it's not one of the top 2 or 3 guys, what are the odds that whoever it is actually better than Shedeur in the first place? Probably not really good. I would say, in all sincerity, though, probably just continue to make strides, continue to get better. I mean, if you feel like he's getting better every week, I mean, he made major strides, I thought, from the Ravens game to this first start. I'm beyond excited to see what he can do in his second start, but with the caveat that he's going to have a bad game at some point here. He's going to have a couple mistakes. I just think if you're the Browns and he shows continued significant improvement on a week-to-week basis, that's really what you're looking for, because then you get really excited, I would think, about what he could look like with a full off season, with OTAs and training camp and everything, with working with the guys and being the number one guy. He said several things that I thought were really impressive talking with him. He said he really felt like he was getting back to normal, being the starting quarterback. He was not used to being a backup, and he wants all the pressure on him. And I said, I'm reading all these reports, Shador, that you're cramming for a test. It sounds like you're cramming. He's like, I don't have a choice. This is my opportunity. I have a healthy respect for the way he understood and embraced just how important Sunday was, quite frankly, for like the rest of his life.
So it sounds like you had the conversation with him, and it sounds like you walked away pretty impressed with him as a person.
Yeah, he's an interesting kid. He's young. I guess he's half my age. And have you guys talked to him?
No. We'd like to.
Yeah, he's. I don't know what the best way to describe him would be. He's a little, I think, happy-go-lucky. But he said a bunch of things that really resonated with me. I said to him, how nice was it to be able to have all the reps with the ones this week and throw to the receivers? He said it was nice, but, those are things that take time, and it's not going to all be fixed in 3 days. He said, I'm going against 2 things this week. I'm going against the Raiders, and I'm going against time on task, because I don't have that much time on task. But there are no excuses. It doesn't matter. I got to figure it out. I greatly appreciated the fact that he understood just how big the moment was, and that he had a very clear understanding that it was not a perfect situation, but that you're not going to get perfect situations, and you have to make the most of the situation that you're given. And then he did. I mean, he went out and he did it, and I give him a lot of credit. I'm excited, really excited to see how he does this week against a better opponent, a bigger game at home. Gosh, that place is going to be rocking, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think there's going to be some tangible excitement there. So I guess going from the Raiders game, there's been one way of cutting down the Raiders game. What an easy win. Obviously, the Raiders fired Chip Kelly afterwards. And so people, some folks, have tried to discredit that. When you look at this 49ers game, how winnable do you think this game is for the Browns with Shedeur at the helm?
Winnable. Yeah, I would say decently winnable. It's a short week for the Niners. Now they got to go to the East Coast, the 10 a.m. body clock game. And, the Browns defense has been really good all year, but especially at home. And the people are going to be going crazy. What is that thing? I hear it on the TV broadcast. What are people banging during the game at the home games?
I think
you ever hear that?
Yeah, I think it's just the tops, the aluminum tops of the the walkways.
Yes,
because they did that in Carolina too.
I can feel that when I did a couple games in Cleveland. I can feel it and hear it, and you can even hear it. Watching the Ravens game, you could hear it on the broadcast. Whatever those people are hitting, and man, it just felt like that defense was flying around. I mean, the reality is every game is winnable with that defense. To me, the two best defense in the NFL are the Texans and the Browns. And the Browns, I think I tried to hammer this point home, but the D tackles have made a huge difference. I mean, Schlesinger's a star. Like, everybody should be buying Schlesinger jerseys if you didn't already. Schlesinger's a star, but then also the corners are playing so well. The D tackle rotation has helped Miles and the whole defense tremendously. So because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if they hold the Niners to under 20 points. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And the Niners are not exactly world beaters on the defensive side of the ball. So this feels to me like a 19-16, 16-13 type of game that could really go either way.
Is there any insight into the defense? One thing I love about when you do these games, you get like background and all sorts of things. Like, you just told us those great Shedeur Sanders story. Is there anything on the defense that you learned in your couple days around the team?
Well, I think he said this publicly, but Schwartz feels like Schlesinger mentally is as a rookie where Ray Lewis was his third year, which is just a ridiculous thing to say. And I don't mean ridiculous like as in false, just ridiculous as in a high praise, because it's so funny. I do a lot of public speaking, and I always tell them, Ray Lewis is the best player I ever played against. And what makes him especially impressive, I would say, when I started against him the one time at center for the Bills, I think Ray Lewis called out what play we were running like half the time. And I came over to the sideline, they're like, Tuck, you got to get Ray. It's supposed to be like a sweep to the right. Guys, when I snapped the ball, that's back when we didn't have video. We just had like the Polaroid pictures on the sideline. When I snapped the ball, Ray Lewis was a yard off the ball outside the tight end. I took the Polaroid picture thing. I gave it to the offensive line coach. I said, you guys better figure out a different formation or motion or something. I had no chance. And people always think about Ray Lewis, and they think, like how fast he was and how hard he hit. To me, what made him so good was he was like the most prepared guy I ever went against. So I think that was one thing that jumped out, the way the D tackles. But what's interesting too? Just talking with some folks, it feels like the other D linemen almost know what they have in Miles, and that they're rushing. I'm not saying those guys aren't trying to get their own sacks, because they are. But if you notice, like, how often this year has the quarterback been able to run to the right outside away from Miles? It feels like whether it was Alex Wright, bull rushing, or McGuire, it feels like those guys are doing a better job of keeping, like, I think about Lamar in that game, like keeping the quarterback in the pocket to give Miles a chance to get him. And then these guys can't step up like they used to be able to, because they come at you in waves. I mean, Graham and Malik and Shelby, and, they were knocking the crap out of the Raiders' interior offensive line. I think that's the key. It's almost like they're rushing more as a unit as opposed to individually. They're rushing better as a unit than they have previously. And then, they just have good players. The corners are really good. Oh, I'll give you one, Jonathan. Schwartz told me before the game that they were going to treat, Bowers as a wide receiver, because he doesn't really block at the point of attack that much. He's like a backside blocker. So these other teams treat him as a tight end, and so then he's going against a safety or a linebacker, and he smokes him, whereas Schwartz just said, like, no, we're not calling it 12 personnel. We're calling it 11 personnel. He's a wide receiver. So how many times the Raiders are trying to throw it to Bowers, but he's matched up against like Tyson Campbell or Denzel Ward? I think, I forget what they call the, assistant coach of the year, but Schwartz should probably be up there for it, because he's done a bunch of impressive things. Bringing Schlesinger along this quickly is one, but also just something like that. If something little like that, like, hey, the Raiders receivers are not very good. Let's treat Bowers like a receiver. That's who they want to throw it to, and let's have Denzel and Tyson cover him, especially if he's split out wide. I mean, those guys were all over him. I think he had like 2 catches for 20 yards, and he's got more catches his first 2 years than anybody ever.
Ross, happy Thanksgiving, buddy, to you and yours. Of course, enjoy the game, Nebraska, Iowa, this Friday. We appreciate you every single week. You were fantastic on the Raiders game. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you guys so much. Nick, I saw your social post during the game. That meant a lot. You're back number 1 ranking for the hosts on this show. You're back in the number 1 pole position. Jonathan would never have posted something as nice as that. So that meant a lot. Oof. Thank you, Nick.
That does hurt.
You're welcome.
Nick always belonged at number 1 in your hearts anyway.
It's true.
So I'm all right with it, Ross. It's all right.
Later, dudes.
See you, man.
Later, dudes. That was Odyssey NFL insider Ross Tucker.